there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with a spoiler video. Yes, I know I'm behind on a lot of these cards, so I think we're just going to go through the entire spoilers for Guilds of Ravnica. This is typically something I do for each set, however, I've kind of been burnt out with Magic, and you've seen that in the video quality as well as the amount of videos I've put out. Let me just give you a little bit of a backstory of why that is. Usually I get very into outdoors in the summertime, so of course I've been out and about, as well as I have had a bit of a Dota 2 craze. The International 2018, which is the largest gaming tournament, which is surrounding Dota 2, was just played in late August. I was having a lot of fun watching the streams, watching the finals, watching just the community, just the commentary and the community surrounding Dota 2, and it just made me sad for Magic. I think that Magic is in a bad place right now, and when you compare it to Dota 2, how vibrant the culture is, and then with them releasing Artifact, it's just hard for me to get behind something that I think that is on the downturn. Now, I've really thought it through. I've had a coming to Jesus moment. I'm not giving up on Magic. I know I've been very negative towards Magic, and if you saw it in my podcast or if you hang out with me on Discord, you can tell that I have just been at my wit's end with the direction of Magic, from anything from design. We'll talk about design, I'm sure, when talking about some of these spoilers, as well as the direction of distribution and the way that Magic is moving towards directly selling to consumers rather than going through the chain of local game stores. I've always been a proponent of utilizing the game stores even more, talking about like localized tournaments that lead to like a nationals or a regional tournaments, and doing that through the local game store scene. I've been trying to organize high school teams to compete against each other, and it just seems like Wizards of the Coast just doesn't care to really cultivate that, and I think they're missing out. They are the kings of paper, and I think that they are really hyper-focused on not only selling directly to consumer on the paper end, but really moving everything over to more of the digital age, which is good if you were a different game starting from scratch, but I think that since they own the paper market, that is where they should be focused. So, I don't know, I've been in a big downer lately this last month. I know that everyone has probably noticed that, especially if you have, like I said, hung out with me on Discord or Facebook or wherever people communicate with me. I've been very, very negative towards Magic, and design has been another thing that I've been very, very ornery about. I'm sure you'll see the gist of that in the top 10 cards that I am glad are rotating. So I'm gonna have 2 decks coming out, I think, or 2 videos coming out, one later today, which is the top 10 cards I'm gonna miss come rotation time. I haven't done that in a year or two. I think 2 rotations now. I didn't do one the last time because we had that wonky rotation. So now we're back in the regular rotation. I'm going to start doing those videos again, as well as the top 10 cards I will not miss. So I'm sure you'll get the entire rant of how I cannot stand the direction of both R&D as well as the playtest team. I think they failed at their jobs when it comes to standard. And the silver lining, though, is Commander still seems to be a very interesting format. However, I do see the power creep of Commander has just continued to increase. And so I was happy for Brawl at first, but then I realized how narrow Brawl was. I think Brawl needs to have a bigger than just standard environment, especially since when Dominaria rotates, there's going to be a lot less commanders to choose from there. Anyway, that's a huge introduction to a spoiler video. I'm sure I'll mention, these various issues throughout the next few videos as well I'm having with Magic. But anyway, let's not digress here. Let's go into the spoilers. So the first one is going to be a card that I'm going to have to get a translation, which is Whispering Spy. Whispering Spy is a 2-mana, 1 and a black, a 1/3. Whenever you surveil the first time each turn, it deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain 1 life. So this is going to be a pretty good card in a draft environment. I don't think that it's going to be that easy to set up in a constructed environment, because this needed to have the way that the Hour of Devastation had, instead of saying cycling, they said discard or cycling. I wish they would have named that as well with this Whispering Spy, rather than saying specifically surveil. Whenever you look at the top card of the library and do something, it deals 1 damage and each opponent, and you gain 1 life. So that, I don't know. It's still going to work, of course, in the draft environment. A 1/3 for 2 mana is very good at shutting down any sort of 2/1 aggro strategy that might happen in draft environments. It trades with even 3/1s, blocks 2/2s, and then when it has an upside that you can build around it, these cards I think are something you should highly pick up if you have some good surveil, if you're going into Dimir. All right, on to the next card is another one we have to look up. Is the Secrets of the Mausoleum, which is an instant, rare instant, undergrowth. Search your library for a black card with converted mana cost less than or equal to the number of creature cards in your graveyard, reveal it, then shuffle your library. This is very interesting for Dredge in Modern or even like Hollow One. If you are looking for specific cards, I'm not sure that it necessarily go in this type of decks, but it is going to be a nice little toolbox. Commander, of course, this is just going to be a shoe-in for a variety of any Graveyard Matters-based Commander decks. So we're looking at Marin. Going to be a very, very popular card for that. And this should hold a pretty hefty price tag. It's a 2-mana tutor. I think that this is going to be a... Yeah, just like I said, an auto-include in most Commander decks in black that utilize the Graveyard. That is a very, very popular... there is, yeah, it's insanely popular with even Abzan, Sultai commanders. All right, on to the next one is another translation of Nightvale Sprite, which is a Flash Fairy Rogue. Unfortunately, it is the uncommon slot, so fairies don't get a new toy for Pauper. And whenever it attacks, you get to Surveil 1, which is not a bad little ability for Flash flying. And yeah, just for a 1/2, so it does survive the Goblin Chain Whirler. So yeah, every turn you can either fill up your own graveyard or keep something on top. That's a pretty good card. Unfortunately, I think this would be a great card for my God Pharaoh's Gift deck. Unfortunately, God Pharaoh's Gift is rotating. So if there ever is a format like Frontier that does take off, this might replace like the Glintonous Crane slot for the God Pharaoh's Gift. But yep. Anyway, that's a deck of the past that is now onto oblivion, as it will not survive rotation and is not good enough for Modern. Alrighty, on to the next one. This is Reign of Notions. This is a 3-mana 1, a blue and a black. Surveil 2, you draw 2 cards, and Reign of Notions deals 2 damage to you. This is a very, very powerful ability. It almost feels like Glimmer to me. So you look at it, so Surveil's just better than Scry, in my opinion, because it's putting it in the graveyard rather than on the bottom of your library, so there's a lot more you can do with it. So you're going to draw 2 cards after, too, so it's not the other way around. Well, I don't know which one would be more powerful, if you draw 2 then Surveil or Surveil 2. Probably Surveil 2. So you can go through 4 cards of your deck if you do put 2 cards in the graveyard. So if you're really, really digging for that answer, this is an easy way to get it. Yeah, this is a pretty powerful card, and look at it. It's common. So I'm thinking would this replace like Forbidden Alchemy in the Dimir Teachings decks? I'm thinking it might. Yeah, very, very good card. I'm definitely interested in playing around this card in Pauper. Okay, on to one of the most hyped up cards that I've heard on Twitter at the moment is the Beast Whisperer. It is a 4-mana for a 2/3. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you draw a card. So Elf Ball, this can definitely go crazy in like an Elf Ball strategy. It probably could see play as well in the Counters Company, other than it doesn't hit the Collected Company. So Beast Whisperer, once you have the infinite mana, I mean, that's kind of what the Duskwatch Recruiter is doing at the moment, is basically going through your entire deck to find your answers. Technically this could run out of steam if you do, draw into a land and then can't have another creature to cast. But man, this is a pretty talk about another card I would really, really like for an existing deck. The Ronus's Monument would absolutely love this. Every time you cast a creature spell, draw a card. Wow, that would go through your deck very, very quickly with Vizier of the Menandry. You'd be able to just continue to draw all those lands off the top and continue to cast all the creatures off the top, and that awesome card. This definitely will see play. I think even like Modern Elves might want it instead of like a company, because you do have a heavy creature based deck, and whenever you cast a creature, draw a card, you can just again go through your entire deck very, very quickly. Like these sort of cards have been in elf decks before. There's like a 6-mana one that does the exact same thing as this for, I believe, a 6/6. It was out of the Innistrad block, like Avacyn Restored, I believe. But this one is just, the 4-mana is miles better than even the bigger body at the 6-mana. So 4-mana comes out a lot earlier, and then you can start drawing cards a lot quicker. The next one is the Nullhide Ferox. Here's one of my big beefs about design right now. They keep shooing green into this like go big creatures very, very quickly. I get it. It's green strength, but Standard has been kind of plagued with this. So now we have another Jadelight Ranger into, or Steel Leaf Champion into Nullhide Ferox. So we have a 4/3 or a 5/4 into a potential 6/6. And then you have the Llanowar Elves at the moment. We do lose like Blossoming Defense for the green. That does need a decent little replacement. I think that will hurt these kind of mono green stomp decks, and we're also losing Ronus. But here's another card, Nullhide Ferox, that can reduce the cost of Galta very, very easily. So you go like Jade Light Rain, or go Steel Leaf Champion on turn 2, Nullhide Ferox on turn 3. You could easily get Galta on turn 4, and you have just an insane amount of power on board. The Ferox is tough to deal with too with the Hexproof. Yes, it does lose Hexproof when you pay 2, and you can't cast non-creature spells, but a bunch of green decks, they don't really care at the moment of casting non-creature spells. When a lot of your creatures are your utility, you can just continue to go through your entire deck with the Beast Whisperer right there on the left-hand side there, and then have beaters like the Nullhide Ferox just to finish the game quite quickly. Yes, this doesn't have trample or evasion, so in a format where that does matter, and this is like the Vine, this is directly competing with Vine Mare at the moment, but I think this is just strictly better than Vine Mare. A 5/3 Hexproof versus 6/6 for the Hexproof, the same amount. Yeah, crazy amount of cards we have in that green stomp slop. However, it's just, again, it just shows that design is being very lazy. They keep printing these can't block cards in red and big green creatures in green. And yes, I know that is the strength of the colors, but it's just getting tedious. It's getting too redundant at this point. There are too many options for Galta. Alrighty, on to the next one is the Gateway Plaza. This is the Spire, Ruptured Spire reprint, but this one is in the form of a gate. So, what's the gate card? If you have control 10 gates, you win the game. Maybe that will see a little spike up if we see even more gates. Here's the Gateway Plaza that goes great in that deck, because it wants to be a 5-color deck, by the way. Not good enough for not good enough for modern though. All right, so Artful Takedown, a 4 mana. Choose one or both. Tap target creature, or target creature gets -2, -4. This is a decent card. It's good removal, the -4. That's relevant. A lot of times the power is not very relevant. You can also tap down a creature, and the problem with this, though, is, like, if you want to use this as a combat trick, this tap target creature is kind of awkward, because you want to be doing that before they decide to attack in, and then they just won't attack in with a -2, -4 creature. Yeah, it's still pretty good, though. You tap it down and give something. And a turn that's really good, you kill 2 blockers with this Artful Takedown. So do not underestimate this card in Limited. It's going to be a very good card. Chemist's Insight, 4 mana, draw 2 cards, and Jumpstart. You can discard a card to cast this again. Pretty powerful card, instant speed. Later on in the Drago type blue decks, they will have plenty of lands to discard towards this. We are losing Glimmer, and we're also losing the Cycling one. So this could definitely be the replacement for the Search for Azcanta draw cards. We're losing Torrential Gearhulk, though, with that as well. But typically these cards do see play, and this one still does seem better than the 3 mana Ascend one, the Sorcery Speed. Ascend, you draw 3 cards, or if you don't have Ascend, you draw 2 cards. Yeah, just this instant. Blue wants this instant. They don't want a sorcery. They don't want this to be have to cast and not leave up the counterspell mana. So the Chemist's Insight, I think, is the perfect 4 mana slot. You draw 2 cards immediately. You get the added ability to then draw more cards later on. Very, very good card. Guild Summit, 3 mana. Whenever Guild Summit enters the battlefield, you may tap in any number of untapped gates you control. Draw a card for each gate tapped this way. Whenever gate enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. Woo! Well, maybe the gate deck will actually be able to see more play. So what can it do in Modern? You can play a lot of, like, play extra lands per turn, and then something like Guild Summit, and then you can play a ton of lands in the same turn, and then activate the... What can I think of the if you have control 10 gates, you win the game card? But anyway, that's interesting. Wow. All right, on to the next one, District Guide, 3 mana. Whenever District Guide enters the battlefield, you may search your library for basic land or gate, reveal it and put in your hand, then shuffle your library. So what is a Borderland Ranger, just a strictly better Borderland Ranger, because you can get gates as well. For a 2/2 body, 3 mana for 2/2, and you get a land. Not bad, not bad. Goblin Crater Maker. Now, this is a very interesting card. 2 mana for a 2/2 Goblin Warrior. You can sacrifice it to deal 2 damage to target creature, or destroy target colorless non-land permanent. So we've seen cards like this before that say destroy target artifact. This is definitely more versatile. Keep in mind this kills Karn. Karn is in this format. We don't know how good Karn is going to be post-rotation. A lot of the cards that were keeping Karn down are definitely rotating, but also a lot of cards that were making Karn really, really good, like the Artifact Matters type strategy, are also rotating. But the Creator Maker can just kill Karn, outright kill Karns and Ugins and Thought-Knot Seers and Reality Smashers. Not bad. All right, the Deafening Clarion. 3 mana, rare. You choose one or both, deals 3 damage to each creature, or creatures you control gain lifelink until in a turn. That is pretty decent in decks that, like, where I see this one is like a History of Benalia type deck, where where you are going to try to be controlling the board and then going over top of your opponent later on, and red-white's done that in the past. Like, I think of Elspeth decks, the red-white Elspeth decks that existed during Theros. They would have plenty of creatures in them, but they had a lot of board wipes in them as well to stop the early game, and then after you stabilize to then put out threats. So this plays double duty. The sorcery is kind of awkward for the lifelink part. You can't use that as a combat. I don't know if you care really to do as a combat trick though, other than on your opponent's turn gaining a bunch of life. But I mean, it's just an upside to a 3 damage to each creature. So if that is going to be the mode you're most likely going to want this for. But if you also need to race versus the aggro decks, like this is the perfect card versus aggro. As it can wipe their board if they're trying to go wide with a bazillion. I think that Wizards still might be a deck, for example. This could just, or Pirates, or Tokens, or even if Elves gets going, like this can wipe the board that way. But speak about those very aggressive decks. If you just need to make this to gain a bunch of life in one turn, then you can do that. So that's what I'm thinking, like a History of Benalia red-white deck is where this is the better slot for it. But, yeah, it's kind of weird, to be honest. The 2 modes, they don't synergize that great. All right, so Ionize. This is a 3 mana counter target spell and deals 2 damage to that spell's controller. That's a pretty decent upgrade for, in my opinion, for Jeskai control decks in Modern, and also in Standard. The Wizard Tempo deck, this should be very good too, because this is what you want the deck to be doing. This is the definition of a tempo. You neutralize a threat and do damage at the same time. So it feels very similar to the Searing Blood type effects or Searing Blaze type effects, but this one's on a counter. 2 damage and counter a spell. Yeah, not bad. Last time this was printed in the form of 3 damage. What was it called? The one out of Apocalypse. And it was in the Dimir colors, so they've shifted this over to more of an Izzet, and it does 2 damage. 2 damage to spells controlled, though, so you can't redirect the damage to a Planeswalker. Runaway Steamkin, 2 mana for an elemental rare. Whenever you cast a red spell, if it has fewer than 3 +1/+1 counters on it, put a +1/+1 counter, and then you can remove 3 counters from it to add 3 mana. Now this is an awesome card because this is a brew around card, so it can get decently big, up to a 4/4, and then you can remove counters to then add mana. So I don't see a lot of, like, I don't see infinites with this, but like cards like Needle Drop seem pretty cool with this. Like just 1 mana spells that, or like Gut Shot. Gut Shot seems really fun with this type of card. I mean, you still need ways to draw cards. So that's what I was thinking. Needle Drop. And then once you draw, so you draw a card, add a mana. Basically, all of your red spells are saying add 1 red mana to your mana pool. So can Storm utilize this at all? And then you also got to think if there is any sort of ways to put counters on this, then you can add. So yeah, if there was anything that costs less to put 3 counters on it than 3 red, you could go infinite mana. So I'm sure there's some commander decks that are going to find ways to go infinite mana and infinite counters on the Runaway Steam kin. So pretty cool brew around card. I'm going to be excited to see how I can break this sort of card. Blade Instructor, Mentor, 3/1, kind of a filler card, kind of a liability as the 1 power, but yeah, this is like your 20 to 24 slot, I'm sure. I wouldn't say you pick these up quick that highly. I don't think they're going to pair that well with Selesnya with Boros. They might. We'll have to see how the draft format pans out, but the 1 toughness on a 3-drop is a huge liability for me. The Mentor is pretty good, though. When it attacks, you can put a +1 counter on an attacking creature with lesser power, but you need to be using this in like an open board Otherwise, you're just going to lose the Blade Instructor, and that's a huge investment. 3 mana is huge in draft. That is not one of your cards you just want to throw away in the draft and fire. 1s and 2s, yes, absolutely. But 3s, you don't want to be trading a 3 for like a 1 and a 2. The Guild Gates are all getting the reprints in 2 different art. And we'll go on to the next one. So the Zone 1000-Eyed, this is the card I think is going to be very, very popular for Commander. When it enters the battlefield, you create a 1/1 black and green insect token for each creature card in your graveyard, and then you can sacrifice another creature, gain 1 life, and draw a card. I'm probably going to do an entire Market Monday next week on Zone 1000-Eyed, what cards you should invest in that will go in this deck, because I think it's going to be a very popular. Golgari Grave decks are extremely popular for Commanders, and this one does. The mana cost is quite hefty, but it is something that is very abusable with the Ashnod's Altar or Phyrexian Altar or Food Chain. Food Chain just seems broken with his Zone 1000-Eyed. Yeah, this card's way broken in Commander, and I'm thinking about it. So you got to think of this like Prosh, and then once you have enough creatures in your graveyard, you can easily go infinite with Ashnod's Altar and Phyrexian Altar, or just other ways that then you can, because it just has to enter the battlefield, right? So you can throw a Zone 1000-Eyed on like Nim's Death Mantle and go infinite in that way. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of crazy things you can do with the Zone. So we'll have to throw out an entire deck list. Look for Prosh, I would say, as the biggest inspiration for a Zoni as far as the abusing the tokens, and then also look for any sort of Golgari Grave Troll deck to see what cards are going to be played for the Commander to dredge in creatures to abuse for a Zoni. All right, March of the Multitudes. This is probably the second most hyped card in the set so far. This is X green, white, Convoke. You create X1/1 white soldier creature tokens with lifelink, instant speed. So this is very similar to the what is the card? The I can't even think of the card. This came out of Dragons, where it was one white and X, and the instant speed is just the big difference in this, because you can wait till end of turn and then throw as much mana as you have into it. And so it's really good versus control, because if they spend their mana on their turn, of course you can just fire it off. Or if they counter this, then you probably have an open turn the next turn to do something. And that's what made the similar cards to this so much more playable than their sorcery speed. Convoke is very interesting in this, because Convoke can reduce the actual mana cost, like not just the X part, but the white and the green can be reduced by creatures you tap. And so we already have like a lot of white-green token based strategy. We still have the Huatli that is sticking around, and so green-white tokens could be a competitor. That's why maybe they'll have to keep Goblin Chain Whirler in just to keep it down. Bounty Agent, 2 mana, Vigilant, sacrifice Bounty Agent, destroy target legendary permanent. That's an artifact, creature, or enchantment. So you can't kill actual creatures, but here you go again. You can kill, nope, you can't kill planeswalkers either. Legendary permanent, that's an artifact, creature. Oh, no, you can kill a creature. Destroy target legendary permanent, that's an artifact, creature, or enchantment. So non-planeswalker and non-land permanent is what this is going to get. So there are a lot of legendary from Dominaria. This seems to be a card that was printed just to be able to... Wizards used to do this a lot more than they do now. Print cards in the next... Well, Braid's a good example. You print cards in the next block to keep the cards that are coming out in check. And Bounty Agent is definitely the Dominaria. Keep those pesky legendary permanents in check. Dimir Informant, 3 mana for a 1/4. This is a popper playable card whenever it enters the battlefield to Surveil 2. So the body on this is very relevant and popular. Relevant and popper. And the Surveil 2, though, I don't think that this is better than the Seagate Oracle, though. So it's going to be hard for that to... But in draft, this is really, really good as you get to set up... I mean, it's better than Scry 2. And think of what Augur of Bolas was. A 1/3 for 2 mana. I think for 3 mana for a 1/4. To then set up your next plays is going to be a very, very good card in Limited. Whisper Agent, 3 mana, 3/2 flash. When enters the battlefield, Surveil 1. Again, very, very good card. The flash is relevant, the Surveil is relevant, and the easy mana cost is relevant in a Dimir base deck that can be splashed into like Izzet. I think this is exactly what Izzet wants for 1 a blue and a blue. So if you are into Izzet, do not overlook the Whisper Agent. Fresh Face Recruit, as long as it's your turn, it has first strike, 2/1. Very filler. Again, the 1 toughness is quite a liability. A lot of times these are good on defense, and when this doesn't have first strike on defense, that just, it's pretty meh. Chromatic Lantern getting a reprint. Sunhome Stalwart, 2 mana for a first strike mentor. See, this is the mentor one I do like a lot, as it's the 2/2 first strike, so it's good on offense and defense. Protects itself on the swing in. It will pair very, very nicely with a 1-drop if we get a good 1-drop. So if you're in blue-white, for example, that Surveil Fairy Rogue attacking in, and then this mentors it, turns it into a 2/3. And then lesser power, though, not lesser or equal. After that, it gets kind of weird with the Sunhome Stalwart. This mentor really falls off quickly. So enchanting this would be pretty good, though. It's a nice little first strike target. And so if there's any good enchantments, they can go on. It's like a menace enchantment. This would be a decent little draft card. Samalo Woodshaper. 4 mana for a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or enchantment card from among them. Put it in your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Oh, wow. This card would be really good with either of my Monument decks. So Catcher's Monument would be really cool with this. It is very similar to the Bugler. It is 4 mana, though, so keep that in mind. That is a hefty mana cost for this type of ability. It does say draw a card, most likely. Like, there will be times you'd miss because Gluttonous Crane has missed so many times with me in an artifact deck, for example. This can get a creature or enchantment. So if there are History Benalias, for example, in like a green-white tempo-based shell, this does curve with History Benalia too. It is a druid, not a knight. It doesn't get the bonus off that, that's what I'm saying, but you can actually hit something decent with like a History Benalia or a creature at that point, like a Benalish Marshal. Hypothesizzle. Hypothesizzle. Hey, there we go. 5 mana, draw 2 cards. Then you may discard a non-land card. When you do, it deals 4 damage to target creature. These are good in definitely limited. It's just too hefty of a cost in standard. But this is huge card advantage. You're drawing 2 cards, so it's both divination plus like Spit Flame. And if you're an Izzet, you're going to be picking these up quite heavily. Goblin Electromancer gets a reprint. Assassin's Trophy, of course, is the card that everyone is talking about warping formats. It's a 2 mana destroy target permanent opponent controls. Its controller searches their library for a basic land card. And we all know this is going to be a great card in every format, as it's just answers everything. Can even push out, it probably will push out Maelstrom Pulse. Maelstrom Pulse does have its uses, though, for like multiple permanents. But this is just too good it's probably going to be a 4 of in most of the Golgari-based decks, as it just, again, it takes care of everything in Modern. Dream Eater, 6 mana for a 4/3, flash flying. When it enters the battlefield, surveil 4. When you do, you can return an on-land permanent opponent controls to its owner's hand. The flash is really good on this. This is I think this card is going to be underestimated, overlooked. It does die lightning strike, so keep that in mind. But bouncing a permanent, setting up the next 4 cards of your library, and being able to come in flash and flying without Glorybringer in the format, I think this is a pretty decent card. So could really replace what Torrential Gearhulk's do right now. Like, I really like this in the mirror, in the blue-white mirror, because the bounce is very relevant, especially if you're bouncing like the Seal Aways or Ixalan's Bindings and a turn. You could also bounce problematic Planeswalkers that have to be recast. And it's also a very good tempo card. It's only 5 turns of attacking in to win the game. So yeah, I think this is going to be underestimated. Let's see what it's actually pre-selling for, because this might actually be a good target here. Dream Eater. So $10. Yeah, I really think this is a sleeper at the moment, and I think it will continue to go down. And at least it's not a 5/6. Otherwise, I'd be whining about this card. But a lot of times, Torrential Gearhulk, how many times do people get like a bounce? This is not even just bounce a creature. It's bounce target non-land permanent opponent controls. 4/3 flash 6. Yeah, I'm telling you, this card is underestimated. This is going to be a big player in the standard meta. Nimazet Perun, blue, red. Can't be countered. Whenever you draw a card, deals 1 damage to any target, and whenever a player casts an instant or sorcery spell, you draw a card. This is just value city. So you're drawing a card, doing a damage, and yeah, so you're for every instant or sorcery spell you cast. So any sort of storm-based strategy in standard, anything the ops and the anticipates, both of those exist still. None of those are rotating. We still have like tormenting voice. We have a lot of ways just to go through, like pair this with, yeah, this is, here we go. It's a nice little payoff here for the Runaway Steamkin. So this is probably a nice little deck that we're going to try to build. A Niv-Mizzet Perun Storm deck in standard. Find and Finality. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand, or you may put 2+1 counters on a creature control, then all creatures get -4/-4 until end of turn. The find is pretty good here. So this is 2 like common ability cards meshed together to make a rare. So again, I like the flexibility of this. In limited, of course, this is a highly picked up one because of just the value you get from the find. In fact, green decks, even if you aren't into black, should probably be picking this up because it's card advantage. Just 2 mana to bring back 2 creatures. That's really, really good value. And the Finality, it's a nice panic button against every creature gets -4/-4, and you get to protect one of yours. Really, really good card. I think this is actually standard playable just because of how well defined the card advantage is. And yeah, the kind of the big beats green decks, they can splash black for this. This, like Vraska too, not the new Vraska, the old Vraska, I think is a great splashable card. It gets rid of a lot of problematic cards for like green Stompy in the sideboard. So I wouldn't be surprised if like just green Stompy, not even really a Golgari based deck, but just green Stompy will splash this. It'll be very easy to splash too. We have a very easy 2 mana base with lands that will come into play untapped with either shock lands or bloody lands. Yeah, this is a great card. Response, 2 mana. Response deals 5 damage to target attacking or blocking creature, so just strictly better than Gideon's Reproach, right? Because that does 4 damage. And Resurgence, creatures control gain first strike and vigilance until the turn. After this main phase, there's additional combat. Another good card where they're putting together like 2 of these cards by themselves wouldn't be that great, but together this is just exactly what you want. It's an early game being able to protect your board, either or attacking or blocking, and then a late game finisher. So I like this Response and Resurgence. I think it's a pretty great. Yeah, both of these, Find and Finality and Response and Resurgence, are both really, really interesting cards. So I like these. Huh. Speaking of which, the flip card out of Ixalan, or Rivals of Ixalan, gives all your creatures first strike and vigilance so that you can flip that really quickly. The Wary Okapi, 3/2 vigilance. Okay, that's just filler. I'm not even going to go over these. These are just the Planeswalker decks. And I think everyone's seen the rest of these cards earlier, and they've been spoiled a long time ago. We're getting fetch lands again, and I think that's enough for today's spoiler video. Later on today, I'll have a top 10 cards that I am going to miss post rotation. This has definitely rejuvenated me. There seems to be a lot of extremely interesting cards to mess around with in this set. Like a lot of these do scream brew around, like the Runaway Steamkin, the new Niv-Mizzet. This is gonna be fun. This is gonna be a fun little set to brew, fun little set to play. Draft format looks good so far, which is great because I didn't like Dominaria or M19, so I'm definitely itching for an awesome draft environment instead of just picking good stuff. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. This has been Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.